The grand auditorium of Everwood University was packed beyond capacity. Students from every department had gathered, their excitement reverberating through the air. Today was not just any day, it was the day Taylor Swift was set to deliver a speech, sharing her journey and inspiring young minds. As the clock struck noon, the murmurs turned into deafening cheers. A spotlight hit the center of the stage, illuminating a figure in a sleek yet modest outfit, Taylor Swift herself. With a warm smile and a graceful wave, she approached the microphone. "Wow. This energy is incredible," she began, her voice resonating across the hall. "I am so honored to be here with you today. You guys remind me of the young girl I once was, dreaming, struggling, and hoping for a chance to make my mark in the world." The students leaned forward in their seats, eager to absorb every word. "I know you all have dreams," she continued. "And I also know that sometimes, it feels like those dreams are too big, too distant. But let me tell you a story, my story. A story of a young girl who refused to give up, no matter how many doors slammed in her face." The room fell silent as she took a deep breath. "Let's rewind a little. Let's go back to where it all began." Taylor Swift took a deep breath, scanning the audience, before continuing. "I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania," she said. "Just a regular girl with an irregular dream, to become a singer-songwriter. But you know, dreaming is the easy part. The real challenge is making those dreams come true." The students listened intently as she described her early years, sitting in her bedroom, filling up countless notebooks with song lyrics, and teaching herself guitar. "At 11, I started knocking on doors in Nashville, handing out demo CDs to record labels, hoping someone would listen. But here's the reality check, nobody did." "Not at first," she said with a chuckle. A murmur of surprise spread across the room. "I remember walking into offices, pouring my heart out, only to hear, 'You're too young,' or 'Country music is a tough industry.' But you know what? Rejection isn't the end of a dream, it's a test of how badly you want it." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I could have given up. But instead, I made a choice. I chose to believe in myself, even when no one else did." Taylor took a moment to sip some water, before continuing. The students were captivated, hanging on to her every word. "So, what do you do when doors keep closing on you?" she asked, looking around the room. "You build your own." A few students nodded in agreement. "That's exactly what I did," she said. "I started performing at every small event I could find, fairs, talent shows, coffee shops. I even sang at a karaoke contest in a mall. Was it glamorous? Absolutely not. But every performance made me stronger, more confident. Every rejection fueled my fire." She smiled as she recalled her teenage years. "Eventually, I caught the attention of someone who believed in me, Scott Borchetta, who was starting a new record label called Big Machine Records. It wasn't one of the big names, but it was a chance. And that's all I needed." The students erupted in applause. "But let me be clear," she added. "Signing a record deal doesn't mean instant success. It means the real work begins." Her voice grew softer, more reflective. "There were moments of doubt. Moments when I thought, what if they're right? What if I'm not good enough? But I kept reminding myself, success isn't about never failing. It's about rising every time you fall." Taylor Swift took a deep breath, looking out at the students, before continuing. "When I finally got my first album out in 2006, I thought, this is it. I made it. But oh, how wrong I was." The audience chuckled as she smiled wryly. "The music industry is tough, and the world is even tougher. My songs started gaining traction, but with fame came scrutiny. People criticized everything, my voice, my songwriting, even the way I looked. And let's not forget the ever-famous question, does she even write her own songs?" She paused, shaking her head. "It hurt," she admitted. "Imagine working day and night, pouring your soul into something, only to have people dismiss it like it's nothing. I was 17 and suddenly had the world's eyes on me, judging my every move. The room was silent, absorbing her words. But here's something I learned: when people doubt you, you have two choices. You can let their words define you, or you can prove them wrong. A wave of murmurs spread across the hall as students nodded in agreement. So, I worked harder. I wrote more songs. I performed like my life depended on it. And slowly, things started changing. She smiled. Little did I know, the real challenges were yet to come. Taylor took a deep breath, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Success is never a straight line, she said, looking around the auditorium. Just when you think you're on top of the world, life has a way of knocking you down. The students leaned in, anticipating what she would say next. In 2009, I was at the MTV Video Music Awards, receiving my first ever VMA for Best Female Video. It should have been one of the happiest moments of my life. But in the middle of my acceptance speech, something happened that changed everything. A few students murmured they knew what was coming. Kanye West stormed the stage, she continued, her voice softer now. He took the mic and said, "I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time." A ripple of gasps and murmurs spread through the audience. I was 19. A teenager, standing in front of the world, humiliated on live television. She paused, letting the weight of that moment sink in. I didn't know how to react. Should I be angry? Should I cry? Should I laugh it off? In that moment, I felt like I didn't belong. Like I wasn't good enough. The auditorium was silent. But here's what I want you to understand, she said firmly. People will try to tear you down. They will belittle your success. They will make you doubt yourself. But you cannot let them win. The room erupted into applause. I went home that night and wrote songs, she continued. Because when the world tells you you're not enough, you have to prove that you are. Taylor let the applause die down before continuing. The Kanye incident shook me, she admitted. For a long time, I felt like an outsider in my own industry. I started questioning whether I really belonged in the music world. She paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts. But instead of letting that moment define me, I made a choice. I decided to reinvent myself. I poured my emotions into my music, and my next album, Speak Now, was born. A few students clapped, clearly fans of the album. Taylor smiled. Every single song on that album was written by me alone. I wanted to prove that I was not just a performer, I was a songwriter, a storyteller. She took another deep breath. But life had more lessons to teach me. Her voice grew softer, more reflective. A few years later, I had one of the biggest albums of my career, 1989. It was my transition from country to pop. A huge risk. Some people told me it wouldn't work, that I was abandoning my roots. But I followed my gut, and it paid off. The audience cheered, acknowledging the success of 1989. But then came the darkest time of my life. Her expression grew serious. In 2016, the internet turned against me. After a misunderstanding with Kanye and Kim Kardashian, I was branded a liar. People called me a snake. My name was trending worldwide, for all the wrong reasons. A hush fell over the crowd. For the first time in my life, I disappeared. I stayed out of the spotlight. I thought maybe the world had seen enough of me. She paused, looking around. But here's the thing about storms, they pass. And when they do, you have a choice. You can let them destroy you, or you can rebuild stronger than ever. Taylor looked out at the audience, her eyes scanning the eager faces. When the world turned against me in 2016, I had two options: let the hate consume me or rise above it. I chose the latter. A murmur of admiration spread through the crowd. I went into hiding for a year. No interviews, no social media, no public appearances. I needed time to heal, to find myself again. She smiled slightly, her expression one of quiet strength. And when I came back with reputation. The room erupted in cheers. That album wasn't just music. It was my way of saying, you tried to bury me, but I'm still here. She paused, letting the words sink in. Life will throw challenges at you. People will misunderstand you, mock you, even try to erase you. But what matters is how you respond. You have to be resilient. You have to keep going. The students nodded in agreement. After Reputation, I embraced change again. I found love, joy, and hope, and that's when Lover was born. And then, in the middle of a global pandemic, when the world shut down, I turned inward again and created Folklore and Evermore, 2 albums that reminded me why I fell in love with music in the first place. She smiled at the sea of students. The lesson? You can reinvent yourself as many times as you need to. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by how you rise. Taylor took a deep breath, her voice calm yet filled with emotion. But just when I thought I had overcome my biggest battles, life threw another challenge my way. One that made me fight harder than ever before. She looked around the auditorium, locking eyes with some of the students. In 2019, I lost the rights to my own music. The songs I wrote, the lyrics I bled over, were no longer mine. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Many knew about the infamous battle over her master recordings, but hearing it from her made it feel even more real. I was heartbroken, she admitted. But I had 2 choices, accept defeat or reclaim my voice. And you know what I did? The room was silent, waiting for her answer. I decided to re-record my albums. I turned my pain into power. I took back my music, 1 song at a time. The audience erupted into applause. And that's what I want you to remember, she said, her voice unwavering. No matter what happens in life, no one can take away what truly belongs to you, your passion, your voice, your identity. She smiled as the energy in the room surged. You are in control of your own story. Never let anyone write it for you. The auditorium was electric with energy. Taylor could feel the impact her words were having, and she wanted to leave these students with something they would carry with them long after this day. You see, she continued, success isn't about having a perfect journey. It's about showing up, even when the world tells you not to. It's about believing in yourself when no one else does. She paused, glancing at the young faces filled with dreams, hopes, and maybe even doubts. I know some of you are sitting here wondering if your dreams are too big. Maybe you've faced rejection. Maybe people have laughed at your ambitions. She smiled warmly. Well, let me tell you something, so did I. And look where I am now. The crowd cheered, their admiration for her unwavering. But I didn't get here by luck. I got here by working harder than anyone else, by never backing down, and by trusting myself when others doubted me. She took a deep breath, letting her words settle. If there's one thing you take away from today, let it be this: you are capable of more than you know. The road won't be easy, but it will be worth it. She looked out at them one last time. Now, go chase your dreams. And never, ever stop. The auditorium exploded into applause as Taylor stepped back from the microphone, a knowing smile on her face. She had once been in their shoes, and now, she had just given them the push they needed to chase their own greatness.